Jesse's Jabber with a friendly face. Welcome into your favorite space. If it's on his mind or it's in the air, and you've got a minute, drag up the chair. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Stay a while and enjoy the chat. Jesse's Jabber, Jesse's Jabber. Time goes by, life goes faster. Take a minute just to clear your head. Maybe there's comfort in the words that he says. Going through life with his kids and his wife. Throws in sports and some PS5. No hot takes, he just shoots it straight. Just a regular guy at the end of the day. If you found your way through the endless noise and clatter, listen in, maybe tell a friend. This is Jesse's Jabber.
The great white whale has rode a lot of miles over the years. We've gone north, we've gone south. Sometimes we've gone north and south on the same trip without ever really slowing down in between. Sports equipment bags have come and gone. Coolers have been loaded, unloaded, and loaded again. The 12 have left little trails of red clay that never really leave anymore. It just moves around the floor mats like it's part of the family. Somehow, there's always hoodies, shoes, socks, and drinks in the back that nobody claims till we're halfway home. But if these seats could talk, they'd probably spend more time talking about the people who rode in them than the miles, bags, or boxes we put underneath them. A couple of nights ago, we were unloading after another long journey. Most of the 12 had already disappeared inside the house before I even got the back doors open. One had a glove hanging out of his backpack and one sandal on. Another one forgot a water bottle and a cup holder because he was carrying his brother's missing sandal. Somebody's bag of sunflower seeds had exploded all over the floor. Nothing about it was neat. Nothing about it was organized in a way that would make sense to anyone outside of our house. But if I had to sum it up best, I'd say it looked like organized chaos, which around our house just means everything went according to plan. As I stood there, picking up the items left behind, I caught myself thinking about how easy it is to notice the person behind the steering wheel. When people see the great white whale rolling down the highway, pulling into a ballpark, or parking in the driveway of the vacation house beside theirs, there's usually a glance, sometimes a wave, sometimes just curiosity. Once we arrive, if they know us, they'll thank the driver for bringing everybody. They notice the person behind the wheel because that's the part they can see. What they don't see is everything that happened before the engine ever started. They don't see lunches getting packed before daylight. They don't see uniforms getting washed after everybody else has gone to bed. They don't see someone making sure prescriptions got picked up, homework got finished, bills got paid, permission slips got signed, or that one kid who couldn't find his belt finally found it just as we headed out the door. They don't see the reminders, the schedules, the conversations, or the small problem-solving moments that never get labeled as anything important because they're just what needed to be done. By the time the great white whale backs out of the driveway, the trip already has a long history behind it. Even though it looks like it's just beginning, there's already a list of people who helped make that trip possible. Life works the same way. This is Jesse's Jabber, outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Let's get into it. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. We love stories about people who made it, and we tend to celebrate the visible moments. The athlete holding the trophy. We applaud the wealthy CEO. We admire the musician standing under the lights. We hear the acceptance speech We read the headline. We see one face. The person being interviewed after whatever it was has already worked out. But every visible moment is carrying tons of invisible moments we almost never see. There are hundreds of fingerprints that help build that very moment. Somebody made sacrifices that won't ever be mentioned in an interview. Somebody stayed home. Somebody believed in them before anyone else did. Somebody kept encouraging them through seasons when quitting would have been easier. Every achievement has a support system hiding just outside the camera frame. That gets me thinking about how much of who we are belongs to other people. Not because they controlled our lives, but because they shaped them. Think about it for a second. How many phrases do we still say because one of our parents always said them? How many habits came from a coach? How many values came from a grandparent who never once sat us down for a lecture, but somehow taught us everything just by watching them live their life? There are pieces of every one of us that came from somebody else. We spend a lot of time chasing independence. We celebrate standing on our own 2 feet. There's nothing wrong with that. Independence is a good thing. Responsibility is a good thing. Those achievements feel great. But nobody starts from scratch. Every life is a group project that led to an individual achievement. When I think back over my own life, I remember people who expected more from me than I expected from myself. Teachers who took a few extra minutes because they thought I was worth it. Co-workers who quietly showed me how to do a job better without making me feel small. Family members who stepped in during seasons when life felt heavier than usual. Friends who answered the phone without asking why first. Some of those people probably have no idea about the impact they had. Maybe they never will. That's one of the fascinating things about influence. It doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just quietly changes the direction of someone's life. A baseball coach tells a kid, "I'm proud of the way you handled yourself today." A teacher writes, "Keep writing." A supervisor says, "I trust you with this." A friend tells us, "You've got this." 5 seconds, one sentence, simple words, and yet years later, those words are still echoing. Meanwhile, the person who said them may not even remember the conversation. Who holds a piece of our identity without even knowing that they do? Maybe it's somebody we haven't talked to in years. Maybe it's someone sitting across the dinner table tonight. Maybe it's someone whose name we haven't spoken in a long time. Or maybe it's someone we've forgotten to thank. One of the biggest myths we buy into is that success belongs to the person standing in front. The quarterback gets interviewed after the game. The head coach holds the trophy. The CEO rings the bell on Wall Street. The singer takes the stage while thousands of people cheer. From where we're sitting, it looks like one person climbed the mountain. Start walking around that mountain, though, and you'll find an entire crew carrying ropes, food, flashlights, and gear. Without them, nobody reaches the top. Sports have always been one of the easiest places to see it. Fans know who hit the walk-off home run. They remember who threw the game-winning touchdown. They buy jerseys with one player's name stitched across the back. Ask those players who helped them get there, and that list starts growing in a hurry. They'll talk about assistant coaches who stayed late after practice, athletic trainers who spent hours helping them recover, equipment managers who made sure everything was ready before anyone arrived, parents who drove thousands of miles, teammates who pushed them every single day. Championships don't belong to one person. They belong to the entire team. And life isn't much different. For every person standing in the spotlight, there's a dozen people quietly holding it up. We tend to take structural integrity for granted until it's gone. We don't think about the foundation of the house until the walls start to crack. And in everyday life, that foundation is built out of small, predictable moments of relief. It's the shift at work covered for us without a complaint. It's the kids being watched for the weekend so we can catch our breath. It's the grass getting mowed while we're out of town, or the stress absorbed by someone across the dinner table who chose not to make the room any louder. Those moments don't make the evening news. Nobody hands out trophies for remembering to pick up groceries on the way home. Nobody gets a standing ovation for folding laundry after midnight so uniforms are clean before sunrise. Nobody hangs a banner for making dinner every night. But if those things stopped happening, everything else starts wobbling. It's funny how we often admire the visible parts of success while overlooking the people carrying a lot of the weight. I don't think enough credit goes to the folks who create stability. Think about every major decision we've ever made. Changing jobs, buying a house, starting a family, going back to school, starting a podcast, taking a chance on something that wasn't guaranteed. Very few people make those jumps because they're fearless. Most make those jumps because somebody gave them a safe place to land if things didn't work out. Maybe it was parents who said, "Come home if you need to." Maybe it was a spouse who said, "We'll figure it out together." Maybe it was a friend who believed in us when our confidence had taken a vacation. Courage has a funny way of growing when somebody's standing behind us. Those are the thoughts I have when I hear someone described as self-made. I know what they're trying to say. They worked hard. They sacrificed. They earned what they have. And make no mistake, I absolutely believe that hard work matters, discipline matters, showing up matters. But nobody builds an entire life with only their own hands. Somebody opened a door. Somebody offered advice. Somebody gave another chance. Somebody introduced two people who needed to meet. Somebody said our name in a room after we left. Those moments become a part of our story, whether we notice them or not. I wonder how many people have quietly held up pieces of my life that I've never fully acknowledged. Not because I didn't appreciate them, but because I was distracted. Life has a way of keeping our eyes fixed on what's next. The calendar fills up. One season runs into another. The baseball schedule turns into football season. Football season turns into the holidays. Before long, another year's gone by, and we've stopped noticing the people who've been making all those full calendars possible. They've been carrying part of our load so faithfully that it started to feel normal. The spouse who keeps saying yes, the coworker who never complains, the friend who answers every phone call, the parent who keeps checking in, the mentor who still believes in us. They become part of the background, but if they disappeared tomorrow, we'd notice just how much they were holding together. That's the danger of consistency. The people who always show up become the easiest people to overlook. And maybe that's why gratitude can't just be a feeling. It has to become a habit. Not the kind that's saved for birthdays and retirement parties or eulogies. The everyday kind. The text that says, "I was thinking about you." The phone call that isn't asking for anything. The quiet thank you that isn't rushed because we're already on our way to the next thing. Most people don't need a standing ovation. They just need to know that they matter, that they're seen, that what they've been carrying hasn't gone unnoticed. There's another side of this conversation as well. If every person has been shaped by others, then every person is also shaping someone else. Right now, somebody's learning how to handle stress by watching us. Somebody's learning how to treat people by the way we treat a cashier, a coworker, or a stranger who cut us off in traffic. Somebody is learning what responsibility looks like by watching how we show up when we don't feel like showing up. Somebody's learning what love looks like in real life, not in words, but in routines and consistency and the small things that repeat day after day. Most of that influence doesn't get announced. It doesn't get a highlight reel. It doesn't come with feedback. It just gets absorbed like water into the ground. One of the quieter burdens that comes with being someone others depend on is how easy it is to forget that dependency exists at all. When we're the one driving or answering the calls, keeping the schedule together, or solving the problems before anyone else sees them, it starts to feel like that's just what we do. The role becomes normal. The expectation becomes invisible. The weight becomes routine. That's where some people drift into sort of a star player mindset. Not because they set out to be selfish, but because life gets busy enough that they start seeing themselves as the center of everything that works, instead of part of everything that works. The star player looks around and sees helpers instead of partners. They see support instead of contribution. They see background instead of backbone. And slowly, without meaning to, they start to forget that the system only works because there are people behind them holding pieces of it together. The cost of that kind of thinking is not always immediate, but over time, it shows up. People stop feeling seen. People stop feeling needed in a healthy way. People stop feeling like their effort matters. And when that happens, even the most loyal support starts to thin out. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion from being invisible. People don't stay connected to places where they feel unnoticed forever. Not families, not workplaces, not friendships, not teams. Everyone wants to feel like they matter in the story they're helping to write. It doesn't require grand speeches or public recognition. Most of the time it's smaller than that. A thank you that's said with intention instead of obligation. A name spoken with respect in front of others. A moment where someone is told, I see what you carry. Those moments don't fix everything, but they remind people that they're part of something, not just behind it. It becomes easy to assume that stability is just part of life, but stability is built. I think about how often we move through days without naming the people who make those days possible. The spouse who absorbs stress without making it louder. The coworker who quietly cleans up what would have become our problem later. The assistant who keeps 10 moving parts aligned so one thing can look effortless. The parent who shows up in ways that don't get posted anywhere. The neighbor who helps without keeping score. There's a moment that tends to sneak up on us when we finally slow down long enough to notice. It's not dramatic. It's usually quiet. A pause in the driveway, a look at an empty seat in the house, a quiet ride home, an empty van after everyone else has gone inside. And in that space, it becomes harder to ignore how many names belong in the story that felt like it belonged to one person. Names that deserve to be seen, not just for what they've done, but for what they've carried. There's a point in most of these trips, or even just these long stretches of life, where the noise doesn't really stop. It just changes shape. The bags are still by the door. The phone's still ringing. Somebody still needs something. But the urgency starts to fade just enough for us to notice what's been happening the whole time. Not the schedule, not the logistics, not the constant rotation of where everyone needs to be. The part underneath all that. The part where we realize the moments we thought were small were the ones doing the most work. It's easy to think the value's in the destination. The tournament, the game, the vacation, the big day on the calendar that everything was building toward. But somewhere in the middle of all that, life keeps slipping through the gaps. The conversations in the car that didn't have a plan. The quiet jokes that only happen because everyone's stuck in the same space for too long. The tired laughter when nobody has anything left in the tank, but we're all still together anyway. Those don't make the itinerary. They don't get remembered because they were important in the moment. They get remembered later because they were honest. And that's where the shift happens. Because the longer we do this, whatever this is for us, the more we start to see that the highlight reel isn't what carries us. It's the repetition. It's the showing up again. It's loading the same bags, checking the same seats, hearing the same questions, and still being there for it. Not because it's glamorous, because it's ours. That's the part that doesn't always feel like it matters until we step back far enough to see it all stacked together. And there's also something to be said about how quickly it all passes. 1 minute we're packing the great white whale like we're going to be gone for months. The next minute, we're unloading it in the driveway in the dark, wondering how the same day managed to feel both long and short at the same time. And in that weird space, we start to understand that nothing really waits for us to catch up. The moments don't slow down because we finally noticed them. They just keep moving. So the only real adjustment is attention. Not changing life, not fixing the schedule, not trying to turn everything into something bigger than it is. Just paying attention to what's already happening while it's happening. Because later on, we won't wish we had more perfect days. We'll wish we'd have been present in the ordinary ones. Eventually, the great white whale will sit still again. Engine off, doors closed, everything unloaded. The echo of the week still hanging in the air for a second before it fades into the quiet of the driveway. That's when it hits that this isn't really about the van or the trips or even the chaos. It's about what all of it leaves behind us. And tomorrow, we'll ask for something else. It always does. But for right now, there's just this moment. And that's enough. Thank y'all so much for tuning in this week and every week. I hope you keep coming back. If you enjoy these episodes, please share them. Help get the word out to others that may enjoy them too. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. I can tell it's time to wrap up because I hear a tug of war over the PlayStation controller escalating as I speak. So until next time, this is Jesse's Jabber. Outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Drive safe. Hug your people. Notice the people behind you. And we'll talk again soon.